All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of The Gathering. We are super excited to be back on tonight with part 2 of our 2-part special event on demonology and exorcisms. We're currently waiting to get Father Casey online. We're having some technical difficulty bringing him on, but we're going to get him on as soon as we possibly can. But if you didn't get a chance to catch part 1 last week, please go back and watch that, because we had Bishop James Long on with us, and we got pretty in-depth into demonology and his experiences and background with that and exorcism. It was a very fascinating conversation that we greatly enjoyed, and it was a pleasure to have him. Also, you'll see scrolling on the bottom is the link to his website. It's bishopjameslong.com. And with all the chaos and craziness that's going on in the world today, we're going to appeal to everybody that watches this video. Make an effort to check out his website and donate to his ministries. 100% of the donations that you give directly through the website or from the courses that you take that he offers in demonology, angelology, genealogy, and paranormal studies, all of that goes to his ministries, which help the homeless, and they help women that are in, getting out of abusive situations. So we're just asking everybody and making a plea to everybody to please consider going on there and making a donation directly to him. So we're still waiting to see if we can get Father Scruggs. We're having some trouble getting him on. Christina, do we have any update yet?
Not yet.
All right, everybody, there's a bunch of people coming in. Hello, Tucson. Good to have you here. Well, while we're waiting on Casey Scruggs, while we're trying to get Father Scruggs still connected, I'm not sure why we can't get him online here, but we'll get him on as soon as we can. Al, you want to talk about some of the locations we got coming up in the meantime?
Sure. July the 18th.
Al, I can't hear you, bud.
You can't hear me?
I can.
Nope. There you are.
Okay. July 18th, we're heading up to Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. It'll be the 3rd trip we've made up there to do the Anderson Hotel. So we're really excited about that location. We've heard a lot about it, and they actually shut it down for a couple of years because of the activity there that was pretty bad. August 14th and 15th, we're going to Hell's Bar and Dam again, and to Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. And we're looking forward to that one as well. September 27th, we're going to do Randolph County Infirmary. And then we just added
Stone Mansion
to that.
Yeah. I'm super excited. I'm super excited about all those locations. And
yeah,
really, we talked about this before. It's kind of hard to really pick one, right? Because, they're all such incredible locations with deep history and a lot of activity. For me, Old South Pittsburgh is one that I've been dying to get into for a long time. So I'm really excited to finally get in there. But Anderson Hotel is kind of neat. It's got kind of a darker history. It'll be the first dark case I think we've done since probably Hinsdale.
Right.
So yeah, be prepared for that one, Rhonda. That one's going to be interesting. There's actually been several documented attacks there, so that might be one that if we think is too dark, we may decide to not proceed. We'll have to see what happens when we get there. Well, what do you guys want to talk about while we're waiting on Father Casey's connection here to improve? Christina, you may have to just call him on the phone, and she's trying that right now. We may have to just bring him on speakerphone. This happened once before. We had an internet issue. It was Carrie Kennedy, the pet psychic, and we weren't able to get her on, so we did it via speakerphone. So I do apologize to everybody for the delay. But Rhonda, why don't you talk a little bit about? I think you just started enrolling in, or just enrolled in, and just started the demonology classes that Bishop Long offers. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Right. I had actually enrolled in the class early in January, I think, but I'm just now getting to actually do the course. It's very informative. It gives you the perspective of demons from different cultures and religions. It's not just the Christianity view, which I found fascinating because it's something that we've been faced with before, different religions and that's having activity. So it's very fascinating. And I'm really enjoying it.
Fantastic. I'm getting ready to enroll myself. I know Christina's completed the program, I believe, so I'm excited to jump in there myself. Father Casey, I'm glad we finally were able to get you on. I know we're having a little difficulty getting connected there, but it's a pleasure to have you here with us. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about your background, and then let's talk about demonology and exorcisms.
Okay, I'm a priest with the Old Catholic Church. If you had Bishop Long on last week, he is the bishop, and I've studied under him and several other people, and this is what I do for the church among my regular duties, marriages and all of that, and spent a great deal of my time devoted to this part of the ministry.
So what was the calling for you to get into this particular ministry? Because it's a very specialized thing, and not everybody is drawn to that because of the extra dangers and issues that come with the type of ministry that you're doing with this type of work.
Yeah, that's true. And I can remember it started as a feeling, because I didn't come out of the watching the shows era or the going around to graveyards and ghost hunting. I mean, I have investigated with people since, but mine was more of a calling, like you said. To me, it's no different than my military service, that now I'm fighting the same, and I step in where others may not want to, may not need to, and I'm willing to do that for whatever help a person needs.
Absolutely, and thank you for your military service as well,
Yeah,
Father. We appreciate that as well. So, did you have a question, Al? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So Father, so you actually, I guess, you studied under the bishop. I guess was he
Yes,
who
sir.
you actually learned under?
Him and others. It's not a large field of people that do this ministry, so it's kind of a small circle, but every person I think that has done this ministry has something to offer the others. And that's part of what I'll be doing in the future, is bringing the knowledge of many exorcists into one place for training the next generation.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. And we spoke last week a little bit about some of the, I guess, misconceptions that are out there. That a lot of people watch the television shows and they see these different things. And I'm not knocking television shows or other paranormal teams, but it seems like there's this conception that there's a demon on every street corner and in every place. In your experience, would you also say, as Father Bishop, that demon cases are not very common?
I would say that the perception that they give is a little off, that our number one battle is against temptation. So you can see temptation on every street corner, sure. But the truly demonic cases that we're talking about, no, they're fairly rare, and they take time to progress through different levels. So it's not, and
Before they become a full-on possession, right?
Right. It takes stages to get there, and it's not around every corner. And the shows are made to sensationalize a little bit. And I have family that do the shows, love them, but it's more of an entertainment value than a documentary kind of deal.
Exactly. So would you talk a little bit about the difference between, and I think people sometimes legitimately confuse demonic or negative activity or malevolent activity. They're not necessarily the same thing, because I know in our experience, in my 15 years in the paranormal, and I think most of my team members would agree, I've been blessed. I've never come across what I felt was a demonic case. I've had negative experiences, and I've dealt with malevolent things that were just mean and nasty, but I think they weren't, the quote unquote evil demonic things. So could you talk a little bit about the difference between negative and malevolent versus, truly demonic?
I understand what you're saying, and yes, there are many times where cases where you get called in, and what you're dealing with is something that's nasty, but it's not what we call truly demonic. And the difference is, that there is a feeling. We talk about all the equipment that people use, that when you go in and you're dealing with a truly demonic, There's no question anymore in your mind. And there are more cases of what you're talking about, the negative aspects or a negative, I call it like a stain on a place, like where you're dealing with a home or residence or
Right.
something, like it's been stained and now there's that negative attached to it.
And it's just
Different
that
than
energy is left over, that negative energy, in a sense,
right,
right?
different than a demon taking up hold, because that's going to be chaos incarnate.
You do have a question from George Wilcox. It says, do you think demons are a Christian made-up thing to put fear into people? And I think that's another one of those misconceptions. And you being a true demonologist, and I want to point out that just because somebody reads a book or takes a class does not make you a demonologist. To be a demonologist, you actually have to have the boots on the ground. Having worked through ministry, you need to be somebody that's in ministry that's actually skilled in that. There's a big difference between someone who's educated in something and is truly what should be called a demonologist. And so I just wanted to point that out. But the question was, that's another one of those things I think personally is a misconception. But would you like to answer that question?
When you talk about Christian demonology, we have to open up a broader aspect. Was it used to scare children into being good? No, not more than any fairy tales were. But the demons were incarnate of other religions' gods as they fail. Like you can look in the Jewish demonology, and you will see how they carry on through, Christian demonology. That it wasn't a made-up thing, and this goes back to nearly every culture has a way to deal with the demonic, whether it be Hindu, even the Buddhist, Orientals, Islam. It's not a made-up thing. It's in all different cultures. So,
and they may not necessarily call it a demon. They may call it something else that basically means the same thing as an unhuman evil force, correct?
Yes. Like jinn would be for Islam, and they are the same kind of like our fallen angels, yet a different class, and they have free will to be positive or negative. And even when we talk about the exorcism part, even the Muslim will come to Rome to figure out how to exorcise a demon when they can. And
wow.
That's just really started opening up the last 5-10 years, I want to say, for the inclusiveness of other religions, because they're out there facing this thing, and without the training, they're in hot water. So they really have to put a Band-Aid on until they get to somebody like Bishop Long or Father Pete or myself.
So what do you think the biggest misconception surrounding what you do in this ministry is? What would be the biggest misconception you think people have?
I do think that people don't know their true Bible, because this is, spelled out in let's say the New Testament, and you can see an example in the Old Testament. But the New Testament shows that this is real, and that they will take bits and pieces of the Bible without acknowledging this. And once you acknowledge this, then you have a stronger base for yourself and your going about. We live in a culture that is inundated with information and misinformation. So they've seen movies, they've watched the shows, they've read books, but when they boil away all the fictitious part of it and get to the truth, then I think they have could have a better understanding of what the reality is.
Absolutely. I think that's a really interesting point on that, because I think it's like a lot of other things. I think people also see in this question I'm about to address or bring up for you to talk about too is that people see these things on television and they formulate opinions based on these snippets, or they read a book, or they see something on social media and they draw their conclusions about all these things. And I think for myself as a paranormal researcher, and I know this is our team's philosophy, knowledge is power. The more you can learn, the more that you understand, the more that you educate and prepare yourself, the better protected you are to deal with the unseen and the unknown, and to be able to handle the different cases that we end up going into. But the question that George Wilcox also had was, why in the world demons use almost in every conversation with paranormal? And I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. it's that misconception where people think just because something is malevolent, or they saw something on social media or a movie or whatever, they think that that is, what, oh, it's a demon,
Well, you got to admit there's shock value. So for the TV side of it, I think that's for ratings.
Absolutely. And then you also have to look at like even movies, The Conjuring, all these different things. And it creates this culture where people have misconceptions. I think people have misconceptions even about the paranormal itself and what really we do in the paranormal versus, what's actually happening in the paranormal, what the experiences actually are and the validity of those. It's not always what the perception is, but that's true with anything. And I'll say this real quick, but as Al and myself are professional firefighters, people watch Chicago Fire and they think that's what being a firefighter is. I love Chicago Fire. It's a great television show, but I can tell you after 25 years of fighting fires, that is not firefighting. I can promise you. So it's a great show and I love it. And I'm a big Chicago fan. I watch all of those, but it is TV. So Father Casey, so how many of these cases have you been involved in your ministry? I mean, how many, of these cases have you been called out to check into?
Quite a few. Most of them, I will say, are not what we're talking that need exorcism, need extreme injunction from the church, but they have something happening in their house that a team like yourself, I help many teams all over the world really to confer, to see what they've got, and then if I can get to them, to help them out with their clients and kind of squash what's going on. So quite a few of them, and it seems to get busier every day. So I do love helping teams like you guys, especially some of the local ones. They'll call me in when they find something. They are fully capable of doing their part, but then they tag me in when they need the church help.
Gotcha. So what is the process when you get involved? I mean, I know for like us, if we walked into something that we felt was, and again, we've, done, hundreds of cases. We've gone all over the country. We've done a lot of these over the past, 15 years. If we got into something that we thought, okay, this is not the run-of-the-mill stuff that we see. This is out of our wheelhouse. We're not comfortable with this. Obviously, like Bishop Long said, our first step would be to stop, back up, and say, okay, this is not good, and call somebody like yourself. So if we pick up the phone and reach out through the paranormal clergy and we get a hold of you, how does that process work?
It's kind of the same as when you start your case. I'll need to listen to what you've had, and I'm sure Bishop Long said this too. Listen to what you got and kind of filter through your evidence and see, and then make a plan of action to go in to bring peace back into the home. But you're absolutely right. If you start getting that gut feeling that this is way bigger than we want to face right now, then that probably is true. Like your gut feeling, I think, is one of your best tools in your evidence stuff. But if you feel something is off, it could be. And for me, I do a good interview and take in all the information, make a plan, and I usually fast and pray before, and then go wherever I'm needed.
And get yourself prepared to face whatever you may face if need be.
As part of the process.
Absolutely. So when that decision is made that you decide that this is a case now that you got to take, so there may be different things. It may be you may have to do a cleansing or a deliverance, or you may have to go much further. So that's all based on your investigation and the evidence that you gather. And is that how that kind of works? And
what happens there? That sometimes, let's say I go in, or it's even in investigations that a demonic or a negative spirit can go silent, just by not wanting to be evicted from the person, place, or thing. So it takes a little time and a little prayer. There's standard prayers that we do, salting and holy water and the prayers that we use. And usually when those are used efficaciously, then whatever is there will rattle free, if you follow what I mean. That even the hiding or the stuff will end because there's not much choice.
I'm curious for Casey. What is there an age that you see this most occur more often? Is it? I mean, can children become possessed? Have you ever seen that?
It's not a usual thing, but from people who are smarter than me say yes, that it can start young, and there is no discrimination of age, sex, race, or anything in a spiritual attack. But most of the time, because a child has not reached what we kind of call the age of accountability or the age of reason, that it's not their choice, and it's most of the time a tactic of the demonic to get at the other people, the parents, the clergy. If you've watched read Malachi Martin's book, the girl was 5 and possessed right before his passing, and that's what got him, was that last case.
Emily says puberty level for mostly girls. Is that something that you would see as being the case?
The majority of are women that become possessed to any degree, and part of the reason I think the numbers of that are skewed that way is because a woman, I believe, is more apt to seek help, or somebody seeks help for her. Like men are kind of stoic and kind of handle it and will refuse to go where a woman may.
It's exactly why we don't read instructions when we build something, because we don't need instructions. They have no purpose. It's kind of the same thing, I guess. But I'm sorry, Al, go ahead.
I just had a question. So when you get called to go out to a location, do you normally do that by yourself, or will you take Father or Bishop along with you, or another person, or how does that work?
For safety reasons, it's always wise to take somebody. It's not always Bishop Long. I wish we could, but we have different areas to go to. But yeah, I like to take somebody with me, not only for my protection, but I'm sure your team knows in cases that decorum, that I'm not going to be alone with any person doing an exorcism or a interaction without protection of myself and men.
Right.
Plus, in the ministry, priests do get tired and need to drag out on each other, because once the fight in an actual exorcism starts, it's not over until it's over. There's no stopping.
How long does it typically last, an exorcism? Does it last over a period of days or weeks, or does it just depend?
It can. I've heard like Padre Pio and the guy in Rome, they can get them done in 45 minutes just reading through the rite, but they can take days to months to even years.
Wow.
That there are people in Rome now and Italy as a whole that go back every week or every month for continued exorcisms.
What do these people do in between to try to keep this demon at bay? Or is there anything they can do in between exorcisms?
I didn't hear your question.
During the exorcism process, what do the victims do in between to try to keep themselves from being attacked?
What do they do between the exorcisms?
If they have to go back,
They try to stay in a state of grace and continue their prayers. And we usually, the best idea is to bring in the family to watch them, because everybody that comes, they don't come and say, hey, I need an exorcism. Most of the time, it's the family pointing it out. So with a good family base and constant support, that they can call, they can be there if they need something in those in-between times, because you have to build a support system. And that works for anything. If somebody's injured or spiritually injured, you build a support system around them, and you keep maintaining it for as long as they need.
Well, because you not only heal them spiritually, you've got to also heal them emotionally and mentally as well, right? I mean, because this is a very taxing experience, not just physically, but even mentally and spiritually and emotionally. So you're training them. I mean, you're healing them on all levels. So I would imagine that support system is also important, not just for the exorcism part, but also for the actual just trying to recover from everything that's occurred.
Yeah, the term exorcism has gotten so blown up with what we were talking sensationalism. What it really is healing ministry. And that's how the word is in Arabic, and it's what it means for us in the rites, that we are healing someone, and we're healing not only wounds that they're experiencing now, but wounds of the past to help them get over some of those things that have been lifelong problems, to help them get in a better state today, which frees them from a lot of stuff.
Wow. Do you want, when you guys want to catch that question? I'm having a mic issue. Hang on.
Emily is asking, is it ultimately up to the individual to get rid of the attachment or the possession? So there's biblical scripture that supports even if the demonic entity leaves, it could come back sevenfold.
Absolutely true. We cannot exorcise someone against their will. If they want to be possessed, which does happen, then that becomes an impossibility to fight against. And yes, she's right about the biblical passage, and that goes to part of that healing I was talking about, that once a person is cleared of any kind of spiritual involvement, if they don't maintain a level of spirituality in themselves, the demon will come back with 7 others stronger than him to try to repossess that person.
Wow.
Which does happen.
She went on to also say you could intercede countless times, but the person is not willing to let go, nothing would happen. So what you're saying is if somebody is truly not willing to accept your intervention, then ultimately they will continue to be plagued by the possession.
Correct. It's called perfect possession when a person accepts and brings it in themselves. And that's Malachi Martin, to use his name again, said when you see a perfectly possessed person, just walk to the other side of the road. That if a person doesn't want the demons out, then it's nearly impossible to do that. That there is a personal involvement, and that comes about. Most people want help, especially when it starts to get crazy in their lives and it's destroying everything around them, their relationships, their family structure, their property. They want help. But those cases of people not wanting relief, that are kind of rare, but it does happen.
So you had mentioned earlier, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Christina, but I just had a quick question that goes along with this. You had mentioned earlier that there is a process, and I'm asking for myself, and I think some of the viewers may have this question, because I know this is a question that comes to me, because like I said earlier, we've walked into cases that are definitely negative or just, have that nasty vibe, but never felt like we had something, but that we had to deal with like that. You're saying that, it's definitely palpable. Beyond a question that you're walking into this. So in these cases, is there activity that leads up to being able to recognize that, to where the demon has gained the power, or is it something that is just there and from the start, just how does that kind of happen? I'm not sure how to phrase that question, but I know what I'm trying to ask.
I think I'm following it, and I think there's a couple of answers to that. Let's take, have you heard of Willow's Weep, Indiana?
We were just talking about Willow's Weep, as a matter of fact.
I read a chapter for Dave's book and have been there a couple of times. That place would be an example of something that was brought in there and channeled in, which stained the place. There also can be, like, let's say, a part of the woods that you're in just walking and you feel it's that negative, heavy vibe. Maybe
Hinsdale.
something years ago on that land, anywhere from a murder to a ceremony. Of course, it can stain the land.
Yeah, because you mentioned woods. There's a section of woods behind the Hinsdale house in New York that has that very negative feeling. I don't know why, but when we were there, that was an area that I absolutely couldn't stand to be in, because it just felt so horrible. Totally different than the opposite side of the path. So I asked that. So Willow's Weep, since you mentioned that, we were actually talking about that. Is that a place you would suggest people stay away from? or would you suggest experienced investigators could go there safely?
I think experienced investigators can go there safely if they, take care of themselves. Go ahead, have fun if that's what you like to do. I wouldn't turn anyone away. I think it is dangerous that it is a palpable energy there, and even the team I went with were getting touched. And I'll give you my first walk in the kitchen. They were setting up their night vision, and I was there as a friend. And they walked back outside, and there was a boom that came from under the house that shook everything. The chair was moving, the glass was rattling, and they didn't hear it outside, but we caught it on audio that was already set up.
Wow.
So that's the kind of energy walking in there. I would say that place is a little darker and more in your face than most that I've been to.
And the reason I asked that, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody from going to any place, I just know that there are some places that inexperienced people should be very careful going, because I am a firm believer that there are inherent dangers in what we do as researchers in the paranormal. And I say that because we often are going into places and we are asking on-scene entities that we don't know to interact with us. We are inviting things to interact with us, and that is a dangerous thing. So I'm a firm believer that, and I start off as a hardcore skeptic. So I'm kind of one of those people that start off as a non-believer, and after 15 years later, I still take a healthy skeptical approach, but I'm a believer because of the things I've seen and experienced firsthand. But I think that inexperienced people or just thrill seekers need to be very, very careful, going into places that maybe have darker, they might get more than they bargained for, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
You're absolutely correct. And Adam Bly, he's a consultant for the Catholic Church, and he says, don't even investigate, don't put yourself at risk. For me, I think we need teams that are educating themselves and out there on the boots on the ground, because you guys are like the foot soldiers doing the work. And when you discover something that's inherently evil, the entire church, not just us, but every church that practices ministry is there to help out. But yeah, it's an inherent danger, because when you stare evil stares back at you, kind of the Nietzsche quote, and you never know what you're getting into.
Yeah, and that's why, we always talk about whatever your protection system is, whatever your religious beliefs are, just make sure you have something that is part of that ritual to keep yourself safe, and make sure you're able to handle what you're doing. Because and if it feels, and I guess what we've always told people when we teach our classes is, if it doesn't feel right, if your gut is telling you to run, then that's exactly what you should do. Because if you keep going down that road, you may have unintended consequences.
I'll give you a great example of that. Was doing an investigation with some people, and I was with them. One team member started fading out, like he was going to pass out. I handed him my rosary, and he kind of leveled off, and he was okay. But another member of the team, and I won't say names or anything, said that he would allow the spirit to use his energy to manifest and talk, which is absolutely something you do not do. Later that night, he nearly bled to death and totaled his truck and was life-flighted to the hospital. And from the bleeding, after 5 days in the hospital, they did every test they could, and there were no medical reasons for what was happening. So that puts us into the truth that this was a spiritual attack on a physical level, from that acceptance and that wrongly letting a spirit use you, and that nearly killed him.
Yeah, that's a terrifyingly frightening thing. And I think I've seen a couple of comments that have gone through that I think are making the same point. I think that people don't take it serious. I mean, they want to go out and they want to have fun and they want to thrill seek, and they don't understand really what what we're really doing here and what can happen to you if you're not careful with those things. Willow's Week was interesting because that is one of the locations that we had talked about potentially visiting. We don't necessarily, well, all of us on the team don't go looking for dark cases, but sometimes we do go to places that have, very, very deep history, because that's a big part of our side of the research for us is history and places that have historical significance. Not per se dark or demonic cases. We don't seek those, obviously.
Yeah, it's a super interesting place up there. Dave Spinks, get in touch with him. He's a great guy.
Awesome. What other places have you been that people may be familiar with? That maybe you could give us kind of your feelings on some of those locations.
I don't ghost hunt a lot or like that. I'm clergy, so I'm doing service, but some of the places I have been, Octagon Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. The Night Stalkers up there, great friends of mine. And Octagon Hall is the opposite of what the week would be. The energy is good. It's not a non-threatening Civil War evacuation hospital that's now a museum. Wynwood, I did that with Porter from the Tennessee Wraith Chasers. We did that, him and Stephanie. The Thomas House in Red Borland Springs. All of these are around me locally.
Yeah, you've got some great there in the Kentucky area. There are some great places. We've done a few locations up there. I'd love getting up in that area. There's some really, really cool history and some really cool.
Uh-oh, we just lost Matt.
We're actually coming up to Lawrenceburg, July 18th.
Places up there. Are we back?
Yeah, you're back.
You're back now.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Getting my
Sometimes
area
StreamYard, we have technical difficulties here. What were you saying, Al? I'm sorry. I completely lost everything for a minute there.
I was just telling him we're coming up to Lawrenceburg July 18th to do the Anderson Hotel, which is a darker case. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but we went to Kentucky 5 times last year, I think.
Yeah.
So we like it up there.
Yeah, always a good atmosphere up there. I really enjoy it. It's one of those where it's not a dark case and people can actually cut their teeth kind of deal for young investigators.
Yeah.
Father Casey, what would you recommend for paranormal investigators like ourselves, experienced, and especially for the newer people when they are going into the field to protect themselves?
I think a couple of things that the person themselves, that when you think about doing this stuff, that you are going into a potentially hazardous situation, that you don't know what's there. Somebody could say, oh, yeah, I've had some things, shadows moving around and knocking on the walls. Can you look it out? And when you get there, chaos breaks out. So your own personal prayer life and your own whatever that may be, I wouldn't sway anybody to either side, but that personal prayer life, a team that looks out for each other. When you notice somebody is not acting right or getting a little glazed over in their eyes and stuff, pull them out, let them get some rest, keep checking on them. And another bit is the homeowners. When you go in, I do this too. I try to dispense with what I've heard and what they've said, and then reevaluate in the moment. So I'm looking and I'm taking it in, and try not to inflame, especially for the younger investigators. Try not to inflame situations with loud, "Oh my God!" So the homeowners won't freak out, because when you're going in, you don't always know the mental capacity of the homeowners. We had a case last month. The husband in the situation, calm, cool, and collected. He could hear anything I had to say. The wife in the situation could not. She was so on the edge after being through so much that any small anything negative could send her over the edge. So you have to treat people in a manner of the level of what they can hear and accept, and that can protect you guys because like in different cases of people getting attacked, not by the demonic, but by other people being influenced.
And I think that that's another interesting point that I would like to kind of touch on as somebody that is, as a team that's been involved. And we do a lot of residential stuff. And now those are not the cases that we have put on our Facebook. When we go to famous places, that's what we share for people to see. But the residential work is private. That's between us and the clients, and it's the way it has to be. But one of the things that we do when we go in, we have a detailed questionnaire. It's a big interview process. We write down all the experiences they have. We encourage them to, document whatever they can. We go through our series of questions, and it covers everything from mental health issues, drug abuse, all the important things that are parts of the puzzle to make sure that we get all the answers and all the information that we can. And then, we evaluate. But the first thing that we do, we don't come in there with recorders and cameras and set up everything right away and do this full-on investigation. We go in and do baselines and get a feel for the people, get a feel for the place, and we start that process that way. So in your experience where you've been called in to do that, is that something that you find is, I don't want to say baby steps, but the approach you have on the onset may have a direct impact on how this thing goes as you're working through a case?
You're absolutely right, and I like that how you describe how you do it, because I think that doesn't overwhelm the clients and get them in a panicky state of mind versus they know the people coming in are top of their game and they're going to handle the situation without that over the top drama that can set a mindset off. And in those questionnaires, I have my own, that I use, and you have to watch when people don't honestly answer it, because some people, they get embarrassed about mental health
Sure.
problems, which they shouldn't. I would accept anybody for any reason, but they may not tell you everything, and that could be a danger later in the case.
Yeah, and we always tell people, we're here to help. You've asked us to come help. We're not here to judge. We're here to help you however, whether it's through what's going on paranormally or if it's to help you, seek counsel. Whatever has to happen here, we're here to help. And that's always the way that we handle those cases. And the other thing that we've found, and I know that this is a very recent case for us, we have the person, everything becomes paranormal. Every experience is paranormal, and it's a culmination of, in this particular case, and in a lot of cases, it's sleep deprivation. There's a lot of things going on that they just keep ramping up because they don't understand what's happening. So that's why we take that approach of let's take a step down, let's take a step back, and let's calmly evaluate what's going on. And then sometimes we find that we can find solutions to these problems without ever doing a full investigation, without having to break out all this equipment and what they've seen or that they've been exposed to in entertainment or whatever. And we go about it a little bit, differently. So I just wanted to touch on that and say that, I think that sometimes people elevate things and they make everything becomes paranormal when in fact, maybe nothing is paranormal or evil at all.
You're absolutely right. I call it compiling, where they start stacking up different random experiences. And that's where, as investigators and myself too, you can start eliminating those down and bring calm back to the person. Oh, that's a tree branch that you have scraping the side of your house, Well, get somebody cut that tree branch off and that eliminates that. And even in the clergy part, that most of the time a counsel just talking to somebody, that there isn't even really a need for the house blessing and all of that stuff in some cases, that just talking to somebody and letting them work through a situation that'll rectify what has happened. But as you guys know, cases have different levels, and sometimes it's in need of immediate response.
I was going to just add that our favorite residential cases are ones where we don't have to go in and do an investigation.
I like the ones where they have nice animals.
Yeah.
All the dogs end up in my lap.
Yeah, and that's a big sign too. I think in our experience, I mean, if the animals are not happy there, that's usually an indicator that there may be something, you know, going on, because animals are super sensitive to environment, and at least that's, you know, been our experience with animals.
Small children and animals haven't had societies stripping away of their intuitiveness. And I've had a dog myself. My dog could not only notice, like she would stare at something in a particular area above the floor, but not on the ceiling. She also was able to, my stepdaughter had seizures, and she was able to sense before the seizure came on.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't even know the levels
Of their intuition.
of their skills and intuition. And I think we also, when we talk about our gut feelings, if we don't get bogged down and distracted in the world, that we still have those. Like you said, when you went in and you felt those woods, that we still have that, and we just have to put it into practice more often.
Absolutely, and we also subscribe to the belief that intentions is everything. If you go in with love and light and positivity, you're going to have better interactions than if you carry baggage and come in negative. In fact, we tell our investigators, and if we got the public with us, look, if you're having a bad day or you're in a negative space, this is not where you need to be, and this is not what we need to be doing right now. That's, you know, another thing that we always tell people.
Yeah, you think like attracts like, and that kind of theory. If somebody comes in, they're like even at a gas station, somebody's having a bad day, and they can make the next person, the person that comes in to buy something, change their day to a bad day, and it's not so unlike in the spiritual realm.
It's that exchange of energy for sure. Absolutely. Josh Morris, who hosts the Everything Paranormal show, good friend of ours. We do some investigative work with him. He's local to our area here. Josh had a question, and we were deep in conversation, so we didn't get to it yet. But he says, are you able to help people of different faiths the same way?
Yes. To me, I've helped atheists and people that hate the church, and I study personally exorcisms and the spirits of all cultures. So I'm able to deal, because I don't feel that the Native American spirit stops at the edge of the reservation, or people of other cultures
Absolutely.
moving into my area where I live. So I have to be familiar with as much as I can be. Like we were talking about learning, I try to never stop learning, read every day. And yeah, it doesn't, my prayers and the prayers of the church do work for any person, no matter their background. You know, think of it like water. You know, when somebody's thirsty, that water doesn't care what color you are, what you believe, anything like that. Water's just there for you.
I love that analogy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a question, but it fled me. I don't know what happened. I had a question, but I lost it. It was going along with exactly what we were talking about. But no, I think that what you said is very interesting. And I think that I know what it was now. I just remembered. Sorry, I don't know what happened to me there. I had a little mini stroke. But
Demons.
It could be too many of these things. I don't know. That's a little bad for you too. But no, that's one of the things that I think when I first met Bishop Long last year, I believe we met you at the same time. I don't know if you remember. I know you meet so many people, but we were at Mid-South, and we met you guys there and had great conversations. And one of the things that impressed me the most was it wasn't just, look, this is, the church's belief, and that's it. You guys are open-minded to whatever the person needs to truly help the people. And I think that is truly remarkable, because it allows you to truly help people and do your ministry to the fullest potential. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So I just wanted to say that I think it's great that you guys do that. Thanks.
I believe it's important to the job, because like I was saying earlier with the healing ministry, that's the goal, and I don't care if, in the collar, not in the collar, at a store, that it's not just about the exorcism and driving out demons. It's about quality of life for everyone. And I think anybody has that capability. There was a guy at the store in front of me, and he forgot his wallet in his car, and all he had was 2 lemons, and that $1 changed his day that I put up there for him. And everybody has that ability inside to change and to make things better for anybody.
And looking at the world today, it's no secret that the world definitely needs more of that. It needs more love and light, and it needs more compassion. I think that's something that everybody can benefit from. Just putting yourself in somebody else's shoes for a moment and really trying
to stay with,
even just giving somebody a compliment.
yeah, a smile. Listen, any small little thing can change the entire course of somebody's life, really.
Absolutely, because you never know what somebody's going through, what's happening to them in that moment in time. So walking a mile in their shoes may give you a totally different perspective. I think that's the wonderful thing.
On the spiritual side, I will say, because you were talking about things happening today, cases are gaining in number and in intensity globally. Like last year, there were probably 500,000 exorcisms in Italy alone. France is on the rise. South America is on the rise. America is on the rise. But in the other side of the coin for that is also the good people like yourselves are coming together in a stronger force. They're coming together in a more pure love. And the faithful, no matter what their faith are also building. So it's the same for both sides. That we are seeing an evil in the world, but I can attest that I also see good rising in the world.
I want to touch on that because we're friends on Facebook, and something you do, I look forward to your posts. You find a heart, which to me translates to love, in these most unexpected ways and places. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you do it?
Years ago, I'd take my dog swimming, and she loved to swim more than anything. And that started finding in arrowheads and Indian money and rocks shaped like hearts. Got more and more, and then as time went on, they're everywhere. A knot in a tree or oil stain on the ground. You've seen them, and part of that is to let people know that there's beauty and love all around them if they just take just a second to be aware. Not be so fast to walk into the store because you're trying to get somewhere and get back, but it's part of the while you're going. That's your life too. And if you see a part there, then you're recognizing that's your moment in the world, and they're all cool.
And every time I see it, I smile. So it's uplifting. Just for that moment, it makes me stop and think. So thank you for that.
Welcome. People have started sending me their own from all over the world. It's pretty amazing.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I think that's a wonderful thing, and it's like we're talking about. The world needs more of that. It's just there's so much to be thankful for, especially where we live in this country, whether we see it all the time or not. There's so much to be thankful for every single day when you look at how some of the rest of the world struggles, and the real struggles and poverty and challenges that face everybody globally. So, I mean, it's a blessing. Every day we have above ground's a blessing. So
yes,
we should make the most of those for sure. Before we have to get off here, I wanted to really quick just make sure people know, if they need to get a hold of the paranormal clergy, what's the best way to do that? I know you guys get thousands and thousands of email, but the purpose of these shows that we do is so that we can get this message out to spread that message. So, and we think that that's an important message.
I believe it's paranormalclergy.org. If I'm not right on that, you can just email me at thebenedictine@outlook, and I'll direct you anywhere you need to go. And I check my email real regular. So through me, or you can try your local diocese if people need, the people listening, they can try to go to their local diocese and talk to their priest and their clergy and see if there's somebody that can help them. But if they can't, holler at Paranormal Clergy, holler at me, holler at Bishop Long, holler at you guys.
I think that's a great avenue to have. I think sometimes people don't know what to do. They don't really know who to reach out to. I mean, teams don't know who to reach out to when they need help, and people experiencing things. I mean, we even run into this, and people know who we are in this area because we make a point to be pretty out there. But we still run into things, and people. I had no idea that there was people in this area that could help. So just getting that message out there is really good. Anybody got any other last minute questions? I've seen one pop up here. I've got if not, but we've got about 4.5 minutes left, so I just want to make sure we make the best of the time. You guys got any questions left for the father? And you guys want to ask?
Go ahead.
No, go.
Rhonda, you got anything?
Ministries, not just the paranormal side. That's a specific ministry. Like I said, at the very core of it, I'm a Benedictine and I'm a priest, and that's how you have to come into this. From there, we go on and do all other ministries, like we were talking about Bishop Long's homeless ministry, single moms ministry. For my ministry, I don't pick up one particular. I make rosaries to help get in to people to pray, and that goes from breast cancer to hospice care. That the needs are so broad that I haven't scheduled mine down like Bishop has yet. So I just kind of help it anywhere, everywhere I can. And I think if we go forward, all of us, with that kind of mentality, like you guys and your team, when you go in there to truly help, not just to be blown away, that's a blessing in the world, it's a blessing to those people, and it brings back something that they've missed for a while. My last case, people had fled their house for over 2 weeks, and my first day there, I was able to get them back in their home, and that was the first good night's sleep she had in over 2 weeks. So
Wow.
you guys and us changed lives.
Well, thank you for that, and I think it's what we need to do as a community. We need to, if we're going to be serious as a community, we need to elevate things and really try hard to help people, because that's what we should be doing. And as we walk through life, that's what we should do. We should always try to make things better than we found it.
Exactly.
I love that.
I think it's great. But one question that we do have here that came up that I will ask, we do sometimes ask this of the guests, so I'm going to put you on the spot, Father. If you could pick your ghost outfit when you came back, what would it be? If you could pick a ghost outfit, would you come back in your as the father, or would you come back in a different?
I kind of feel like 8 maybe. No, I have a comfortable pair of pants and an old army jacket that I wear. It's a poncho liner, and it's so downy soft. Whatever it is, it has to be ghost downy soft.
We just like to have a little humor there and kind of end things on a positive note sometimes. So, on a funny note, on a joyous note, because I think laughter is great medicine.
Yes, sir.
But it has been an absolute pleasure having you come on with us. We're going to get ready to wrap up. We got a little over 90 seconds left. So those of you that have seen this or will see this as time goes on, please support what these guys are doing. Check out Bishop Long's page, follow what Father Casey does on Facebook, and really support these guys, support their ministries, because they have dedicated their lives to service. And I think it's a really wonderful thing for us to also, to make sure that we do whatever we can to support you guys in your efforts.
Appreciate that. You guys stay safe, and anybody out there that needs help, USOCC.org, Bishop Long's email, my email you have, and we're happy to be there for anything.
All right, Father Casey, please hang out for just a couple of seconds. When we go off the air, we'll say goodbye to you. We're going to go ahead and shoot this outro, and our time is up. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next week.